for illumined life to be birthed into form. I am the truth. I am the light. Illumined, beloved divine.
So hello there everyone, and welcome to this video with me here today. It's a very beautiful day today, so I'm excited to spend it with all of you here gathered. And I actually recorded those 4 very deep mission update videos with the full saga. It was like in Lord of the Rings, you know, they went on the fellowship journey, and this is how it was for us and the entire Illumined team. But I really felt strongly urged that before we actually talk about this, I felt there needed to be a deeper understanding seated within those of you who are somehow still here, my audience, and you want to understand these things with more illumination, with more depth and insight, because sometimes people don't understand that the things that I share, you know, every one of you has to build a personal relationship with. It's not like something I tell you, then you forget it, and you know, it's like everything in life, you have to cultivate a specific bond with, a relationship. It's a dynamic duo, right? So nothing in this life is just in and then out. It has to weave a spiral of our own creation, of our own design. So this is something I want to talk about today, because I want to go deeper in the impulses of life and reading them through an illumined body. After my completion of the mission, I was very quickly taken to the state of my embodiment, which existed before this dark period, 2-year period of transgression. It was like a detour, right? In a way, although it was also predicted in a way, and was divinely called for, because that was Aurea's mission plan all along. But I was actually taken back to this timeline before this all began, and I had to release the most tremendous atrocities, I'm just going to call them as such, from my body, right? And all these things, I was witnessing them in my body. I did not have visuals or seeing visions. It was just a pure knowing, and the knowing originated from the body. And the entire time that my human body was going through the process, and as you know, like, so much has been surfacing, and I thought at times I would just literally die. And they kept telling me, well, the body holds the key, because it's the human body that will find the way to release that, all of that, because the human body is so strong. It has the illumined seed of life in it, and will find its way to, you know, correct course. And all these inception points, it will somehow eradicate and dissolve from its body. And I was using different things that came along. You know, sometimes it was the pulsar, something was something different. You know, we did a lot of inner child healing sessions back then as well, because the inner child truly is the key. And today we'll talk about how to read the impulses of the body. And you know, I've been actually embodying this path for years, and this tantric cultivation path, which I call my inner tantrika being, because out of all my essences and of the multiversal skills that Aurea has, there's not a skill in this universe she hasn't mastered. The tantrika is our favorite thing, because as you will see in the follow-up videos, I will actually explain a deeper Elohim version, a big creation story, in which the primordial alone, which is the pure illumined design, this immaculate, what it actually does, it invites darkness into its triangle of purity and the way divine law creates. Because as Elohim descendants, we create through this prism of life, and what we do is we don't deflect the darkness, right? We don't chase it away. We don't make it stop existing. It's like we invite it in, and then we illuminate it. So all this time through me, Aurea was doing this process, but there's something deeper to this process that I will describe more at the end of this video, that I hope you will stay present with me, because it's a deeper insight, and it's something that Aurea as a sovereign being has not done before, which means me as Polona, I've never witnessed this before, and I'll explain what this is for me. But this entire time, this darkness that was seeded, and it was deeply rooted, and it's basically rooted in every single human on earth, whether you are realizing it or not. It's just the different levels and extent of what is being done. But this, as you will see, if you will witness and journey through our 4 parts of the saga of Illumined Union mission work, you will see for yourself how deep this work goes and how deep we went. And now we've done the work, and yet it's not over. Like, the new level comes, and then again and again, right? So each level I go into, I gain new insight into the level of embodiment mastery I'm able to perform. So when I started doing, actually accessing this it's like everything is a spiral, right? So when I finished this mission part completion, I went and I spiraled right back to the core of where I actually left. And it was 2019, you know, going back retro, back to the past, you know, that was me. And it wasn't going into the past, but it was like picking up that aspect of me and picking up where I left back then. And it was almost like in one instant of a turn of a button, I was tantrika again. And I started doing this cosmic dance, an ecstatic, really orgasmic dance, and just feeding the life force through my body again. And a part of me was like, how, after all this torture and all this transgression and so much suffering and pain inflicted, I can still produce so much orgasmic life force in my body? How on earth? And of course the answer came, because you are Aurea. That's her essence. She is life. She can resurrect life just about through anything. And you will see, if you have the call to watch the 4-part of the video saga of the mission completion, you'll see how deep this work goes. And so today I want to talk about these impulses, because a lot of people still don't understand that the Illumined way is the seed of the Illumined design has to be felt in the body. Because for a lot of people, even when they're channeling, this channeling will be probably most of the time 100% hijacked. Because you don't understand the nature of channeling and all the levels and layers it has to move through, and eventually, of course, it moves through the astral as well. So for illumined beings, I have to explain first how I function, right? My family of light will exude illumined codes, and doing the pulsar work and the womb breath cultivation and moving that force of life up through my body, receiving it through the crown, doing the pulsar, dissolving the particles of specific density, then releasing it, and then receiving that new informational download package into my body. Only after a while, when it seeds and anchors into my body, I will decipher it through the wisdom of my body. My body will be guided through these higher illumined impulses. I will now describe a different process that most humans are attuned to. It's like they get guidance as pictures or words, or, you know, someone telling them the gifts we call clairaudience, claircognizance, all these gifts, right? That unfortunately so, just because we are in the matrix, in this bubble, created reality that's not authentic, original creation angel reality, right? Which means that in all of the channelings and all the information we receive, like direct words or like directly, when we don't do the life force cultivation, when it bypasses the body, any level of it will be hijacked. So I tell you again, there is a huge difference between guidance and divine truth. Illumined truth is what it is. You can't change it. However much, you know, darkness will try to work around it, it's still truth. So darkness can distort the truth. What it can do is create like a reversal of it. And you will see again when we journey through those videos what that means, because I will explain in depth. But in this way, what this means, that an illumined being, if you actually want to be functioning again through our primordial creation principles, you will have to awaken the life force intelligence in your body, which means doing the cultivation work. And it saddens me to see how many people just don't do the work. And they're like, okay, I'm connected, I received this guidance, and we're all pretending that, you know, we're just automatically gifted and there's nothing out there, and it takes knowing darkness and its structure and its format and the way it functions to actually wake up from all of that, so you can actually train yourself in becoming a life force master. And I have all these courses and all of information design and wrapped up in this total packaging. But you have to know that very few people will choose the path. Because unfortunately, a lot of that which comes through as visions and impulses will be hijacked. They will somehow be filtered through a very specific informational design that's imprinted through the dark. So, you know, you might have an individual that will say, well, I just follow my impulses intuitively. And a lot of what we call intuition is not always intuition. So recently, I'm my beloved divine companion, the chosen one. As you know, we've been doing all this work together. It will be presented in the mission packaging. It's like we went through specific journeyings, and sometimes, you know, she noticed how we're being pulled elsewhere. And it's a lot of things pulling at your strings and trying to vie for your attention and trying to get you to be elsewhere. And you want to go follow that impulse. But the illumined way is when you know focus, when you know yourself, your column of light, which is your masculine self, and the feminine being as the spiral. So just as I actually initiated this cycle for myself again, I was actually lying in my bed after a very orgasmic cosmic dance cultivation, and I felt something tingle again in my third eye, and it was like this instant spark, and I saw gold again. I was like, oh wow, you know, and I'm getting visions that are visions of God, which is not the same as these lower astral visions that are showed more like stories, you know, playing out scenarios, and that's not the same, right? So this impulse came, and suddenly, right, I saw this vision. And these divine visions are more like energetic pictures you're watching. You're watching the process of illumined light, what it's doing in the creatrix prism within your own embodiment, right? So what I saw was like this masculine rising up, and he held the feminine like by the feet, and he was like starting to spin her like a lasso, you know, like she was doing these circles. And I knew instantly in that moment, wow, I know what that means. It's my inner masculine has been once again restored, like the illumined column of white light template. And then the feminine, which is now finally I resurrected, it's like this spiral. And I started doing the spiral work again. And it was a very strong vision. It was like, ooh, you know, the spinning was so intense, and I just knew what it meant because I got my knowing back, right? But now I want to talk about that aspect that if you don't do the life force intelligence, if your body is not the one signaling you the messages, and a lot of people in the matrix, when they say, I just followed my impulse, a lot of these impulses are impulses of the dark. And we've talked about before how the darkness works, and my initiate, she had to learn this in her own way. She was seeing how the darkness gets you with your wounds. At your core wound foundation, there is a vulnerability point, a point of wounded vulnerability, because there's two aspects of vulnerability, right? One is the open vulnerability when your child is magical and divine, and when your child is wounded, so your vulnerability is wounded, and the darkness plays at the child and the body template and keeps on scheming and plotting, right? So they will always start saying things and going down at you and putting you down in a way that, you know, sometimes it's very down forward, degrading or demeaning, and sometimes it's false upliftment, which makes you believe that no, you're actually doing the good job, you're doing a good work, but you're actually remaining stuck somewhere that you're not supposed to be, and your soul does not want you there, but the darkness does. But first, as you know, there's not enough acknowledgement of the dark that people would understand this, that not all impulses here on this planet, because we are in a very enmeshed planet, and all sorts of signals go out every day, in and out. And when you simply say, well, I was impulsed, I just followed my impulse very randomly, it's like aimlessly rolling somewhere down the hill. You're not being a very conscious conduit of illumined light. And you have to start doing the work, because otherwise you and your own field, your body, will continuously get hijacked. And most people who live day-to-day lives not doing any of the work that is illumination of the body, they unnoticedly go through layers and layers of what they perceive as their divine guidance, or complete fog and confusion. So they're like, I don't even know what I'm doing or what I should be doing. Because you have to know creation angel level, which is basically at the core foundation principle, all of beings. And at that principle, we function by the vision of God. We need vision to create. You need vision first. If an impulse comes out of you more like instinctively, like, oh, it's just like, you didn't even know why it's there because you never asked a question. Someone just recently said to me, I was asking them, why did you call me? Well, I just had an impulse. I said, yeah, but do you know why you're calling me, what you need to communicate, or what you want me to communicate, what you want to talk about? No, I just followed an impulse. And it feels rather, something that we need to bring more awareness to, because at the Illumined design, at the new Illumined human level, you need to do things consciously, because every single signal that comes in, you have to question it. Where's it coming from? Is it my inner child? Is it my wounded child? Is it someone else? Is it someone else's energy I'm picking up? Is it the AI? Is it the infrastructure? Is it all this wireless technology existing all around? Is it distorting my energy field? Is it like just my frame of energy really pulling me down? Is it the dark ones? Is it the whispers? All these things that we never question when we get the signal. And especially for people who are gifted and they say, well, I'm very intuitive, right? I've always been that way. A lot of them don't know that even our intuition is being played with and tempered with. So my friend called this, what exists, she said, it's like false feeling of synchronicity. Like, oh, this is synchronicity. And sometimes you feel like, oh, guidance just pulled me elsewhere and I had an intention to go there. This happened to me. I wanted to go actually somewhere, but I got this guidance and they were pulling me, like the darkness was pulling me. They were showing me like food, go here and, sorry, I have a very itchy nose today. Sorry about that. And they said like, oh, they were showing me this like, ooh, this vegan bar, go there, get food. And I was very hungry because it was the end of my weekend retreat. And somehow in the body, I felt too tired to go in that route. I'm like, no. But then something in me just knew, and then I went anyway, didn't listen to myself. I had to really question that impulse, but I didn't at that point. So I ended up in huge traffic jam because it was Sunday and that area is super touristic. I ended up without food because there was a huge line there, so I couldn't get any. And I scratched my car a bit. because I was in this weird dense state. There was lots of dense energy and I was very tired. So I couldn't, in that moment, I didn't just sit on the spot and do the life force work right there at the bar. And I was just like, I'm just going home. And I noticed that was my training ground. My family showed me, like, you see what happens? You're going to learn for life now. And when you're a trained one on earth, when all you want to do is be consciously and constantly aware of yourself, you have to know these things. So when you say things that are random, well, I'm just being spontaneous. I'm not saying spontaneity is not the perfect thing. It's beautiful when we follow the flow of life. But first, my beloveds, you have to know what life is. Life is life force moving through you. Life is when you exist in exhilarated state, when you're vibrating photonic light and it keeps on moving through you. And that's when your guidance will usually be correct. But when you're in a low state and you get an impulse, and it's like my intuition, and all these people teaching in these courses, like train your intuition and your skills, they never imply this principle of knowing what the darkness is doing to counteract that natural ability of ours. And it's been getting harder and harder to master ourselves in this realm because there's just so much energetic influences every day, 24/7. And even when we sleep, we have this random term. We always say, sweet dreams, sweet dreams. Let me tell you, none of my dreams are sweet. None of them, because it is the astral. And I know my processes. I know that when I go to sleep, Aurea goes to work. So I usually have very ramble dreams. Very rarely I would have like a guidance dream or a soul meeting dream or something like that. Because most times I just go off and wander off and do the guidance. And that's why other people are dreaming of me as Aurea guiding them. But I want to tell you, even the astral plane, like even at night, like constantly we are being hijacked. But if you're not an aware one, if you're not a conscious being, your energy will be not just hijacked, it will be siphoned. Right, will be drained. And most of the times people don't even know where their source of draining is coming from. There's lots of things. If people saw what they look like during the day with all the hooks and pulls, it's just a lot. And that's why I always tell you, you have to start. You don't go to, this is something my friend witnessed in one of the sessions she did. She said there was a woman, she had an astral hook, right? But she said, when I followed it, there was other hooks and other lines, and she was like, I could just follow it and it started looping. And I said, of course, because you have to go to the core, and you will experience that with the portion of these 4-part videos that I will share with you why this is so important and how we've been doing this work. But we have to notice, because the moment looping begins, it's not divine guidance. It's basically darkness trying to pull us somewhere else and being cycled in time, right? And spinning instead of spiraling. And when I talk about these things, I know most people don't understand what it means to have a spiraling life consciousness. My Illumined team told me that on this planet, I'm the only one so far with this far developed spiraling life force intelligence. That there's mostly others that are a little far along, but I'm actually the most understanding of this very consciously. And I have the gift because I'm connected to them, because I was doing this work for so long and I knew how to be silent, and in my silence as the hermit in those Alps for so many years. And when most people were having fun outside, I was doing the work. Me, right? My body was knowing that this is something I have to do. And I learned to be with life. I learned to see what feels like life and what feels more like just information. Life is the essence of love. So when a portion of guidance comes, and yes, sometimes I would receive packages of insight, even with words, but I would have to feel whether those words are through love or not. And I feel the voice, because I told you the darkness, what it does, it can create holographic, not just images of people and impersonations, but also do their voices and impersonation. And again, my friend recently noticed, she said, darkness tried to hijack me through you because they presented as you, and they were telling me, you're not who you think you are, you're not Elohim, you're not an angel, all these things, like to scare her off and to make her degrade herself in her self-confidence and her awareness of herself as a creation angel being. So that's pretty much, you have to see through those things. And I'm like, why on earth would I speak to you like that? As if, never. But of course, we're in communication every day now, because it's a very intense process we're moving through and doing this liberation work together. But you have to know the life force intelligence is the only illumined way of functioning as a fully illumined human on earth. Anything else is a rigged design. It's old, it's outdated. Darkness learned how to hijack it. People are like, well, but I have my intuition. It's my own inner God language. Well, it's not as simple like that, because the darkness learned to get very creative with those things. The only thing the darkness does not understand is life. Impulse of life, like pure vitality. It does not understand it. It's like it gets confused with it. So the only way for me, especially during that transgression years, my family could communicate with me directly is, right, through me having the body open. And that was the catch. Because all the three main portals, the crown, the heart, and the root, were hijacked. And it was so closed off, so far off, that I felt, they're gone, my connection is gone. I could no longer feel them, let alone hear them, right? It was a very difficult time, and they never left me. But I couldn't tune into them because it felt like a wounded animal with cut off legs and ears and everything. It was like wandering there, the forest, like half broken. And imagine like how it is to assimilate yourself together once more. And I did it proudly, boldly so, in a very short time frame, actually, for what the amount of what was done and the distortion. So I learned to liberate myself, and the only thing that truly worked, and now at the end, is getting back into my cultivation. Because the moment I'm in the body knows, and the body has to question, has to be super aware. So people who are doing things like martial arts training and dancing, these people are more intelligent in their body because they train their body to be more alert and more flexible and dynamic. Like people who do yoga, not rigid, structured yoga. It's like the distorted masculine. That's not really true yoga. You have to do tantric yoga with the life force coming through, and you have to usually do it yourself, not in a studio where someone's showing you and you're just like doing the doggy, right, and the dancing. It's not how you actually do yoga. It's not what yoga is in its essence. So for you to really know yourself, not just think you know yourself, but I know who I am here in my crown. You have all these new agey people, but I was this priestess and I was this and that. They all say they know themselves, but you don't know yourself until you have the Buddhi, the Christos, and the Elohim, or the El principle of life. All of these three portals merge together in your complete state of awareness and what you can exude as that power presence. And when Aurea comes through me, when all my columns are correct and aligned, when I'm in that power place, she comes rushing in, and I feel her like the blood rushing in my veins. She's so passionate, and she's like, here comes Aurea, and I feel her essence and her feistiness and the way she dissolves darkness almost like in an instant, and she breaks through me, and it's this codes of light that just like splurge out. And that's when I know, ooh, that's how it feels. That's a true impulse. And it comes from my own divine intelligence as embodiment of Aurea herself. With most people, it's still like learning this process of unwinding from linear thinking and cycled into becoming a spiral. With that comes the liberation process, which I want to talk about next. To be a spiral means to continuously liberate ourselves. And just yesterday we had another talk and another session, mini session. And my friend asked me, she's like, but can people actually fear to be free? Fear freedom? And I said, of course. Why, my dears? You think, but no, why would I fear freedom? I just don't know how to get to freedom. No, there's fear of freedom. Why? Because you have to know in the matrix kind of living, right? You have to go to work, you have to make your money, then you have this relationship, then you have your housework or chores or family duties and responsibilities, and you have your societal projections and wounding and all of that. There's so much at the core that most people don't even get to access. They don't do the work, they're not going to see. And I've witnessed a lot of people who are like, yeah, but I'm not feeling that, so obviously I don't have it. Well, you never even done the work, so that doesn't mean you don't have it. It means you probably have the most of it. And it's like, it's scary for people. Why? Because when you're in the matrix, and it's actually a safe house, it's a false prison, actually. You think it's like, oh, I'm nested in this, but it's a false imprisonment. Because you just go there and you get your money, you get your payment, and all you need to do is show up, keep showing up, and keep feeding it life force and more, right? With freedom, you have to cultivate yourself every day. You have to earn your own money. Not earn it, but you have to create. In the liberate itself, you're creating your abundance. You don't go to work and you get paid, actually. It's like learning to create, like from this exhilarated life force state. Like, you know how to do it. I know how to do it, but most people don't. And I had to learn too. Luckily, as an illumined being, I learn fast. But most people are so... they don't want to hear, and it's so simple. But people are lazy. They don't want to do the work, or the darkness keeps telling them, well, that's not the right information. It's so complex. It's not complex. It is actually the easiest way. You don't have to pay any money for any specific training. Everyone thinks they need training. You only have to unwind the spiral within your body that is already naturally there. You have to get to the core of the seed of this illumined principle of life that is immaculate, and anyone can do that. But everyone's thrown in the jaw, the clenching jaw of the dark, thinking they can't. So freedom is not easy. To choose freedom is not easy. So people get wimpy and scared and, oh my God, what will I do if this and that and I leave it all behind? Oh, but yet they have a yearning for this freedom and a longing. And I feel that in the people, and I'm here to help and, assist these souls to liberate themselves from everything that is in matrix and cycle that makes them believe they're not free and that they're not angels on earth, that they cannot live as divine angelic creatures on this planet and beyond, wherever we want to go to our next ascended abode. So I want to now share a story of the liberation I'm witnessing with this companion of mine, this chosen one, my friend, and, disciple in a way, my biggest devotee. And it's like I've been doing basically now behind the scenes everyday work with her, because something Aurea told me was like, now she's the top of the line. She's now a priority for us. And I just sacrificed all my time, all myself. I didn't get much of a retreat this year. I was just like, okay, I'm in. I love doing this. And it was difficult because a lot of the processing for her was still, I have to mention this, it's still kind of like that leftover of the masculine, like imprinted. Like we need to always strategize, right? And you need to kind of, if you get a guidance or get information, oh yeah, but this is because this, or, this and that, or ... You're like always self-analysis, because this gives you a sense of staying on top of yourself. Like I need to know why this is so. Liberation work, life force work is like, you have to basically unwind from everything and the need to know and the need to strategize and make plans. So life force work only means get your illumined insights from the body. You have to activate the body, which I have to tell you now, one example is very difficult for people who've been traumatized. And I can basically say that for 99.9% of people have been traumatized either way. Even if it's just a parent wounding, it's still a wounding. But because our life on earth is so fast and we're squeezed into this peer pressure, like you just go to kindergarten, then you're in high school, then you're in college, there's no break, and then all of a sudden you have to work because you have to provide for yourself. Basically, a human has zero time of self-establishing themselves, getting to know who they truly are, getting to the core of who this beautiful angel inside is. Know thyself, feel thyself, hello. They just can't do it because there's never any space for it. I'm not going to say time is not the right word. Time is non-existent. But there's no space for it. It's like a constant push. And at a certain point, with such souls that are meant to or destined to wake up, there's so much this pressure building up and so much frustration, but they don't know how and what to do. And in a lot of the cases that come with this wounding, comes this, when you have a trauma, what happens is a part of the fragment of this being, or your being, splinters off, because it's difficult to witness yourself in the body. It's difficult to feel if you felt through the body something that was very deeply either painful or unpleasant or just violent or very violent, whatever, So a part exits the body, and we never fully come into the body before we're ready through this initiation into the life force work, which when you do it through the inner child, which is your body, you have to feel safe. You have to feel it's safe to accept this new template, this new way of functioning, right? It's just the work I was doing with her, because she had very difficult traumatic experiences in her life, and I'm not going to go into it because it's a personal story. I'm just going to use it as an example, right? That what happens is the fragmented mind is then infected, diseased by this corrupt dark transgression, which corrupts the human minds, right? And it scatters the mind. So sometimes people think I'm crazy because I'm, feeling this, but then I'm seeing this and, oh, it's just too much. And what a lot of these traumatic cases do, they go within, they retreat, and they create their own language, which they would kind of communicate with their intuition through this language. So this language, although be it it's their own divine nature, and it really depends of each being how evolved this language would be. But for many of them, it's like these voices that speak to them, or it's a specific symbology or symbols they're using in their communication. But eventually, in their time of holding this gift, they will have to come into a framework of dissolving that and coming into the higher principle, which is feeling through life force, the impulse of the body. Let me give you one example. For example, there was this one very terrible relationship dynamic and situation that, until the person saw the other person what they truly were, they kept on defending them. This is a mental prison, right? Because we keep on trying to make excuses for that because we don't want to see it for what it really is. Usually there's trauma behind it. It's connected, not even particularly sometimes with that relationship we're in. Sometimes it goes dates further back. But it's something we don't want to associate with, so we disassociate from it. We create a story of our own. It's like the mind creates a story so that it's easier for you to be in that situation, within that dynamic. Let's say it's a relationship. But when you start to awaken, you know, when my friend had an Illumined awakening, it's the first, right? You have the insights. And I told her that's the easy part. That's the blissful part. Going through this and the family and the descent of Elohim in the meeting. I'm going to explain all that in the videos. The hard part is when the awakening kicks into the body. When you will meet all your frustrations, your fears, your deepest doubts, wounds, and you will have to assess that and know your power as a creator being through that. And you will have to develop that aspect which we call our inner mother, and mother ourselves and mother our inner child into that state. And this is when we learn to decipher these impulses properly and correctly. And I went through this process a very long time ago. So for me, it was just like, okay, transgression happened. And because of that, I was feeling it. I didn't see visions. Well, I saw some things, but not like, you know, like people actually see visions of horror. For me, I just felt the horror and the amount of atrocity. It was an inner knowing. That's how I receive. And that's the purest form of receiving. Because you have to know that darkness works for those with the gift, so they would see these pictures of horror. You know what? Recently, Aurea was saying to such a being in this channeling to them. And she's saying, no, you're right. You don't have to see these atrocities. It was not meant for you to see it like visually. Now revoke this and make a new self-agreement in which you state, from now on, when I'm fully in myself and trusting my gift as a lumen being in this body and my own life force embodiment, that I will only see and witness visions of God in purity. I don't have to witness the visions of what the darkness is doing, like literally. Aurea said, darkness has to see and witness that, and their time will come. The time of the reckoning will come for all. And they will have to witness the abomination against God they performed constantly for eons and eons of time. That's their bidding, that's their work. But they want the light ones to feel sensitive and vulnerable in a way, like, look at this image, how disturbing it is. So hence a lot of, even kids have nightmares and all these bad dreams, and adults just think that's a normal part of life. Oh, I just had a bad dream, boo-boo, nothing the matter. We should start applying ourselves to knowing what this is from a very early age on, and educate ourselves and work with our children properly and teach the children how to connect with the golden light and how to protect themselves and all these things, because this is still earth. It's still the astral around it, even though, yes, parts of it is dissolving. But I told you, those of you who wish to ascend and move into the ascended realms, they're still worlds. It's not like you go back to God. It doesn't exist. But it's like you have to know. You have to do the work. Nothing will come without the work. It won't automatically happen for you. So a lot of people, right, for example, who are this new age, right? And people are always, where will these people go? Because they're infatuated with this false light. It doesn't even exist. The astral heaven. Everyone will go and move through the creation they designed and they believe in. But you have to know the biggest distortion ever that you receive is the proper impulse. You say, well, that's my free will. That's my impulse, right? Is it really? Because the free will experiment is the biggest lie ever told. Because the free will that's being shown to us as humans, it's dark. Yeah, do anything, just about anything. You have free will. And souls choose through free will. They keep on stagnating and they don't grow. They don't move closer to God. They kind of go away and further from God in their journeying. The only free will that's truly free is divine will. And you have to do the work to know and recognize this will through the impulses of your life force intelligence. And no one will do that work for you. So I have done this. I'm a master of this. I know I am. Because I have the knowledge that most people don't even speak about. As I've told you before, everyone now in this realm is all about energy updates and what's happening energetically. And we're just moving through this cloud of energy. And we're just like aimlessly strolling around this universe. Is that correct? Are you a creator being, or are you a follower of some specific energetics that you don't even know what's it about, but someone else shared about it? So you're like, okay, check. I know what's happening. Do you? Do you really know what's happening? Because you read it somewhere, or you read about an energy update or a horoscope, or I don't know, whatever. The only true intelligence that true masters possess is feeling the currents of the impulse of life in their bodies. And they would know instantly, oh, that's a dark hoax. Oh, that's this. It's like, the Buddha under the tree. that knows and does not fall for it. It doesn't, it doesn't negate the darkness. It still exists, but you don't feed it any attention. And you can decipher. You have the true illumined filter now. This is a true impulse. This is coming from my family. I feel it in the body. I feel exhilarated. I feel ecstatic. Sometimes the dark interjections will say things like, no, that's bad for you. Don't go there. It's like, you're like, oh, that's my intuition. No, sometimes they want to prevent certain things from happening because they're working very hard. Specifically, I noticed this in the case of unions. They're trying to hijack true unions of coming together. So they're continuously separating these, and pulling together those that are not meant to be in those unions. So recently my friend said, I just know these two beings I was in the session work with. We had this group and I knew and I saw them, they're in a wrong union with each other. But you can't tell people directly. So she went to the soul level and had a mini higher self conversation, these things. And that's really interesting work to do. And we can all kind of access that level of knowing things. So darkness, yes, it works very hard to not just hijack, but distort the impulses. So the true divine impulse that's then filtrated through their scheming, right, gets distorted and you can't feel authentically anymore. It's almost like you're always in the fog and you don't know what to do. And if you constantly don't know what to do with your life, it's not because you're an idiot. It's not because you're lost. No, my beloveds, your soul has always known your path. It knows your mission. The problem is you don't know where you're being hijacked, siphoned, and deliberately deceived. And it's sadness for me to witness that over and over again with so many individuals. And I say it is so simple. All you have to do is get in your body, start doing the work and kicking some ass. When Aurea comes in, I'm like feeling this surge of vitality and it's a rush. And sometimes because I work so much with energy, the constant work, my life. I don't get to rest. Even at night I work and sometimes I'm like so tired. I'm dead tired. And then I go in the sun and I do some breaths, I do the cultivation and I pull it in my womb and I just do a mini energy update. That's a true energy update, is what you do with your body energetically, right? How you make it shift. And all of a sudden, like, wow, I'm having speed again, that's the true, recreation that we're basically to do. And a lot of people think, well, when I go to sleep, I replenish myself. No, beloveds, sleep sometimes is good because the body rests, and sometimes we need the body and the functions that are vital functions of the body and the organs, right? They need to rest. But sleep is not for revitalization. That's why even though we go to sleep, and most people sleep way over long hours, it actually ages them. And it's like you're constantly being told, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, right? But basically, the true revitalization and rejuvenation comes from doing the life force work. And it's so simple that because it is so simple, it's being shown as nothing this simple can work. You got to make the information complex, and then we got to earn a lot of money for it, right? Because let's make this a complex course and something to master. Anyone is already in truth within and intrinsically aware of what life force is and its flow and cultivation, but there's so much disruption and there's so much distortion that most people don't even begin the work. And let me tell you, first, yes, you gotta kind of do a little bit of routine and be really focused on it. Like that is how it was for me, especially when I was being initiated and trained into the pulsar. But now for me, it's because I've been doing it for so long, it's just become automatic. It's like I just start doing the womb breath, pulling it upwards, and when I do the pulsating, it just starts. I'm like, oh, I'm pulsating. Ooh, cool. It's like, drive a car, you have to learn, and you're automatically driving. It's like, ooh, cool, I know how to do it. It really is like riding a bike. But if you don't even start somewhere, how do you expect to have true knowledge? True knowledge is not information. True knowledge is divine intelligence. And it comes with Source putting all these light codes out, and everyone could receive them. But there's so much heavy layers, heaviness, fog. And especially the inner burdens that we kind of create ourselves. Because you have to know, even with all the entanglement from the dark, you do like, like a Zumba master. And then at the end you get to the core where it's only you, nothing left. You've done it all. The last level remains. Let me tell you what that is. It's meeting yourself as the biggest obstacle. The last obstacle will be you. And the reason why I'm telling you this and why this is so is because there's an aspect of us that has been so used to the dark because we're living in it, right, in this realm, that we literally have to untrain ourselves from those impulses, these lower impulses. And we sometimes, through our ego reactions or responses that, again, are impulsive, and we say, but that's my impulse and it's how I feel in the moment. You have to temper yourself. That's a temperance, right? Energy. You have to moderate yourself. And then you go back into your core, into your softness. But you have to do the work. You can't do it by bypassing the feeling that comes along. You have to feel the emotion, the feeling, and then go and moderate it. And then in that space of stillness, you will speak the voice of you. The highest guidance is the voice of you. But unfortunately, darkness knows even how to hijack that. So we think we're talking to ourselves, but it's just like a corrupt astral version of ourselves. I have to tell it like it is, because let me tell you, there's no one on the planet right now on this pod that went as deep and uncovered all of that and knows how fake this is and knows that the truth is right there underneath it all, and that it's beautiful and it's pristine and it's concise, and that focus is a beautiful, intelligent thing to master. And it's like, just always observe, witness yourself instead of trying to explain yourself and always go like, yeah, but it's because we're all sometimes in that aspect that's either too passive or too chatty. Either is bad, you know, like, not bad, but it doesn't serve us properly. Like if you're someone who's always going on and on, or if you're someone who's very passive and never has anything to share, and I was like, yeah, I'm just like this, you know, that's not you. Real you in moderation is constantly receiving, processing. You always have something then to share from it. And again, receiving, processing, sharing it. And that's the true dynamic of an illumined being. And the only reason I can tell you about this is I've never read about it. I don't study it anywhere. I've never studied with anyone. I study with Aurea, who lives in me. And we do this work. And I basically am the living example of this, demonstrating this as I walk my path. And instead of teaching it, I'm demonstrating it. But in a way, in a form of having that available as teachings. It's all online on my webpage, Set Up Being a Light. Life Force Mastery courses, all the other training, it's all there. Just go and find it. And, you know, I don't want to advertise myself, because this is not advertising me. This is like putting the work out there, because people are like very lazy to pursue something as simple as they take it so much for granted. And it's a waste. It is a waste. Because a lot of what we actually receive right now at this point in time is recycled. It's the same information, just sold in different packaging, right? It's like songs returning the same way, like, you know, different but the same, or the fashion and things like that. Just keep on being recycled. This is how the Matrix is the biggest recycling hub that ever existed. But beneath it, underneath the Matrix, there's life. Like when you go to nature, you don't witness the Matrix, right? That's why I spend most of the time outdoors in nature, because there's no Matrix there. It's all pure and pristine. And that's where you feel life. And the reason why I learned to follow life so much is because I was outside so much, and because I'm an illumined being living inside this human body, and I've learned to merge the both. Learning through life as in nature, organic, and learning through the organic life force intelligence. And I merged it. And I'm a being living that synthesis and that harmonious inner union. So that's something I want to talk about. Really know that not all impulses are illumined light. The game of dark and light is a constant. It will keep on pulling you. At a certain point, you will have to exit out and say, nope, game over. I'm not playing. I need to learn only, and for myself, this is my ascended lifetime, to cultivate my body illumination and learn the skills that are already within me. I just need to pull them out, because they're cosmic. This is a cosmic principle of life. Therefore, it's not just in me. I'm just that aware and that embodied, but it lives cosmically. It's an impression of life. It lives therefore in every seed, in every being, in every soul. And no matter how egoic and closed off the human aspect that the soul incarnated with or through is, still work can be done. So get your sleeves rolling and butt kicking, and I'll see you in those 4 video updates. They're very intense, but I hope you will enjoy them. Either way, they will come out next week, which is also just in parallel my birthday week. So at the same time, I'll be retreating a bit, and then I'm going to do finally the Patreon content, which I'm far behind. And some people who've scheduled sessions with me, but if you still want that, you can always find my work on Set Up Being a Light and personal services. And until next time, I will lovingly say, with love, wisdom, and power, and I'll see you. So much love.